Hey, good morning. It is January 11th and it's about 61 degrees outside here in Florida. It's a pretty cool, chilly, windy day today. It's kind of nice because the sun is on us. But today, for most of the morning, I will be with Chrissy. She is the Peri garden intern. And today we started off by collecting some of the greens. So we'll show you that process in a minute.
Hi, my name is Chrissy Mahoney, and I am the Peri Urban Garden intern here at Echo. And the Peri Urban Garden is an area that refers to places that are around cities, the perimeter of urban gardens. And those are places that in developing countries maybe don't have as many advantages that gardens do inside urban areas, and so they may not have running water or electricity or those kinds of things, but they are still close enough to town that they're able to grow things for market and take them to market. So it's kind of a special place that we are targeting here at Echo. So that's what I do, and right now we are processing some kale that we have picked from the Peri Urban Garden. Here we have some lacinato kale or dinosaur kale. And what we are doing right now, we have picked the kale in the morning when it's freshest and sweetest, and we're going to give it a good rinse here in the sink, get off all the dirt on the surface, just kind of let it get nice and clean, and then we're going to take our bunch and we're going to dip it into some ice. And what this does is it just immediately cools off the vegetation and gets all the field heat out of the kale so that it can just get immediately cold and kind of keep temperature where it's at. It's like throwing it into the refrigerator right away. And this is what they do commercially. This is how you get such fresh lettuce days or even weeks after it's been harvested. So now that we get all the heat out of it, we're going to store it, and to do that we're just going to put our bunch with our stems down into this ice cooler. Here we have already done a row of collards, and then once we fill this up with all of our kale, we are going to put a cold wet towel over the top of it to keep it cool, and then we're going to put it into refrigeration. And that's how you process it. Hi again. So we are spreading mulch on these 100-fold beds, they're called. These are wicking beds that have a reservoir of gravel at the bottom that holds water, and then there's a permeable layer in between the soil and the gravel which wicks water up into the soil. So it's a very sustainable way to grow food, and you're able to pack a lot of stuff in, and you're able to save water, and you're able to fertilize and harvest readily and easily. And so that's what these are. And right now we are just going to spread some mulch on the soil, just to help with that water retention and to keep the weeds down.
Good afternoon. So today I began my morning with Chrissy. She's the Peri Urban Garden intern, and we started off in the morning. You want to collect your greens so that they have all the water uptake, and throughout the day they lose their water. So we worked on cutting the fragile greens, which are going to be your lettuce, kale, and other leafy greens like that, and Chrissy will explain that process later. But I just got to see what it's like to be an intern who her area is kind of fragmented. It's not all in one section, and she explains to me a lot of the process of what goes on with Peri urban gardeners and what they have to do and troubles they may overcome. And it was just very interesting to work with another intern for the morning. Later we went and saw Seth. He's another intern here, and he ground up his banana leaves and also I believe some of the banana, and he ground it up and made banana flour, which is so cool. He's going to do further research on that, but that was super interesting, and we all kind of tasted it, and it tastes like banana, and it was pretty good. And then Leanne and Chrissy, they are intern buddies, and they ground up their corn that they had collected previously, and it'll make cornmeal. And we tried it, and it was actually fairly sweet, and it wasn't sweet corn, but a lot of the interns, the banana flour and the cornmeal, they'll use that as fresh ingredients back at home. Then in the afternoon, I worked in the propagation section, so a lot of volunteers will go to different sections, whether it's seed bank, propagation, or work for a certain area like the rainforest, urban garden. And so I went to propagation, and I started off there was an order that they had, and I loaded up a bunch of mangoes on one of the carts, and then I did some weeding, and then it was really interesting, I checked each irrigation that was specific to each plant. In each line there was a little irrigation tube with a little spout at the end, and I just made sure each one of those worked. And it was just interesting to see how each one is specifically watered. And finally, myself and another volunteer harvested arrowroot. They're like the tubers. And it's really interesting because they are edible, and they can be used as like a thickener. And every day I learn amazing things. But today I was mainly focusing on the Peri urban garden, and noticing, what does it mean to be a smallholder farmer? It's kind of the concept of you eat to live, and smallholder farmers have a lot that they depend on, because they have to feed their families, and they use appropriate technology. They don't have tractors and all of these fancy equipment. They have to use what the land has given them, or they have to create some kind of technology that will help them. And it was just very interesting to see how these interns even though we are in the United States, how can we take this knowledge and apply it to these third world developing countries, and how can we learn from them, because that's really essential. So I learned a lot today, and I'm super excited, and hopefully tomorrow morning I will be with a different intern.